for us to get started. So good evening and welcome. My name is JD Ross. I'm Associate Dean of Admission here at Hamilton, and I'm really happy to welcome you all to tonight's Hamilton Hangout, covering the open curriculum, advising, and student research here at Hamilton. First of all, I want to give a big congratulations to all the members of our new class of 2026 who were just admitted here a few weeks ago and are joining us here tonight. Glad to have you with us, and congratulations to you on your admission to Hamilton. I had the pleasure of reading a lot of your applications these past few months, and you are a tremendous class who has done so well, and we're really eager to welcome you here to Hamilton. So tonight's event, we're going to discuss how Hamilton's open curriculum sets us apart as a college and how we address your academic journey with us, and also how you'll be supported along the way through this academic journey, and how you can have access to research and experiential learning opportunities at Hamilton. So I'd like to get started by introducing the faces that you see here on the panel with us today. We'll go in order here. I'll ask Alex to jump in, Alex Plakias, to jump in and introduce yourself first.
Hi, my name is Alex Plakias. I'm an associate professor of philosophy. I've been here at Hamilton since 2014, and I am also a member of the class of '02.
All right, thanks, Alex. Kathy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kathy Wolf. I'm the Dean of Engaged Education here at Hamilton, coordinating the ALEX initiative that we'll talk about a little bit more in just a little bit. Welcome.
Thanks. Kevin.
Hello, everyone. Congrats. My name is Kevin Alexander. I am Hamilton and Opportunity Programs class of 2013, and I'm an ALEX advisor.
All right, Ellie.
Hi, I'm Ellie. I'm a sophomore majoring in environmental studies and biology and doing research here, which you'll hear about in a bit.
All righty, and Yassine to round us out.
Hi, everyone. My name is Yassine. I'm a sophomore here at Hamilton. I'm majoring in computer science, and I run track and field here.
All right, thanks, Yassine. And someone who you're not going to see on camera tonight, but my colleague Jack Nivison is behind the scenes. He is in the chat. He will be answering questions there for us, and he will also forward me some of those questions that we might be able to answer live on the air here with you tonight too. So thank you, Jack, for doing that for us this evening. So I've got a few goals that I want to get across tonight so you can understand where we're going. First of all, we'd like you to understand how the open curriculum works at Hamilton, share some examples with you that our student panelists will tell you about how the open curriculum has given them flexibility to study what they love across our liberal arts offerings. Our ALEX advisors are going to talk to you a little bit about the advising process at Hamilton, how it is really a part of the open curriculum. We're going to talk a little bit about the different kinds of advisors that you're going to meet and that you're going to work with, and how they're going to help you maximize the time and opportunities here on College Hill. And then we're also going to dive into some research examples at Hamilton, from independent projects, summer internships, other opportunities that we can share for how students engage in significant and sometimes publishable research while they're here. So let's jump right into the open curriculum. And you know, since you're all admitted students, you know, I know that we send you lots of emails and a view book and lots of information about studying what you love, right? And our open curriculum. But in addition to studying what you love, I think sometimes we can also call that discovering what you love. There's a lot to explore here, and not because you have to, but because you want to. With just a couple of exceptions, there really are no core courses. There's no distribution requirements. We don't have a first year sequence or a sophomore sequence of classes that you have to take. So you have a fair amount of freedom to dive right in and take some classes in a subject area if you know that that's what you want, or you know that that's what you want to explore. Or you've got the freedom to poke around a little bit, explore some different possible areas of interest if you're not 100% sure what you want to do. But you're not doing this alone. Even though it's an open curriculum and you have a lot of responsibility, you also have a lot of support through a pretty thoughtful system of advising that helps all of this come together. We realize that the open curriculum is a little bit different than what you might have been used to in high school, and where you might be able to pick an extracurricular here or there, but you really don't have a whole lot of say over the classes that you take. And now you come to college and all of a sudden there's all of this pressure and responsibility. The advisors are here to provide a sounding board and to give you some direction. You're going to have faculty advisors. You're going to have an ALEX advisor. ALEX stands for Advise, Learn, and Experience. And we're going to get into that a little bit later tonight. And they will help you navigate not only your course selection and your curricular options, but all of the other options you're going to be faced with, like off-campus study, studying abroad, fellowships, experiential learning, research, right? Everything that complements what's happening outside of your classroom learning. So let's get started here with some of our panelists, especially our two student panelists, Ellie and Yassine. I'd like them to weigh in here on kind of their experience with the open curriculum. And you can kind of pick which one of you wants to go first, but can you explain how the open curriculum has kind of impacted your academic journey here, the types of courses that you've taken, maybe how it's guided you in a direction that you might not have otherwise considered?
Yeah, I can definitely go first. I'd say the biggest advantage with the open curriculum is having all of your options open, and it doesn't bind you to a certain option. Like, say, for example, your first semester, you want to experiment a little bit, and Hamilton has these classes that are called FYCs. There are first year courses. They help students basically get used to a college level workload and everything. But then say you want to switch it all up the second semester and you want to take courses in completely different departments, try out different classes. The open curriculum lets you do that without any penalties, basically. Even right now, when I'm further into my major, which is computer science, I still have the possibility to take art classes. I still take some econ classes every once in a while, without no effect to my core concentration.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I was in all of your shoes 2 years ago, choosing between small colleges and large colleges. And what really stood out to me about Hamilton was it was kind of like the best of both worlds. I knew what I wanted to study more or less in high school, going into biology and environmental studies, but didn't necessarily want to only do that, which is kind of the vibe that I got from larger institutions, where I wouldn't be able to take like a philosophy course or an art class in addition to pursuing what I know that I'm interested in. So, and that's really the vibe here at Hamilton, is like there are all these people with all these passions, and they're able to explore these passions like to, I don't know, kind of the utmost extent, but at the same time, they're not entirely limited to doing one thing, because the open curriculum can both serve their ability to pursue that thing, but also to indulge in other things, which kind of makes it a sort of a well-rounded education, which I've been really happy with so far in my time at Hamilton.
One interesting piece of data I'll share with you, something that we collect during the admission process. You fill out a form and say you're interested in Hamilton, or maybe you tell us when you apply on the Common App. You can select an area of study that you're interested in. You can tell us what you'd like to study. And we've been tracking this data for quite a while, and 47% of you don't actually end up majoring in what you told us you were going to major in when you were a junior or senior in high school, right? And you filled out that form and you told us, right? 47% of you don't do that. You go do something else. And I think that speaks volumes to the, kind of the impact of the open curriculum to get you to open your mind a little bit, think a little bit differently, and try a path that you might not have otherwise considered. Sticking with Ellie and Yassine for a second, let's talk a little bit about the academic advising component to this journey. What were your experiences like with your first year academic advisors? How did those advising sessions work for you? What kind of direction were they able to provide?
For me, I remember my first semester here. your academic advisor will be one of your professors in one of the classes, the first classes that you choose, basically. And I remember mine was a computer science professor. But the cool thing about the first year academic advisors, they don't have a say in what you decide to do. Their job is to guide you and help you choose what you want to do. So I remember my computer science advisor, he would always encourage me to take fun classes. He always said, I want you to take at least an art class when you're here, take maybe a language class. And they definitely make sure you're on track in whatever you're interested in. Like they'll check in with you before registration. You have to meet with them to make sure that you're choosing correct classes, but also a combination of classes that is manageable, because they've been around for so long. They've advised so many students. They know what's doable and what's not doable. But at the same time, their job is to make sure you make the most out of the liberal arts education. People here, professors, students are really, really big on the whole liberal arts experience. Doesn't matter if you're STEM, if you're humanities, they really want you to be a well-rounded person.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of the first thing I noticed about my advisor was that he really asked me a lot of questions, and it wasn't just like the normal questions like, oh, like, what are you interested in, or something like that, or like, oh, like, why do you like biology or something, but like really uh, like took the chance to get to know me, like asked me about like my background and my family and all sorts of things, and I think has like a really good picture of like sort of like where my interests are and like my like career goals and things like that, which I think again like you probably had an advisor of some sort in high school, like for college and that sort of thing. And I don't know, the advisor that I had here, like really took the chance to get to know me. And I find that was really helpful in helping to guide me towards certain classes or avoiding other ones and meeting requirements, that sort of thing, which is really helpful.
Yeah, and the idea behind making sure that first year advisor is also somebody who's teaching one of your first semester classes is that's a person we want you to develop a relationship with, right? You're going to see him 2 or 3 times a week teaching that class, and you're going to have those academic advising sessions early on, right? And that's an intentional on our part. We do want you to start developing those relationships and getting that guidance as early as possible. Let's kind of mix things up here a little bit and turn the tables and hear from the person who's going to be kind of on the other side of the desk during these advising sessions. So Alex, as a faculty advisor, you're an important person for a first year student to develop that relationship with. Can you talk a little bit about some of how you approach advising sessions with students?
Sure. Well, I think as Ellie pointed out, I do try to get to know my advisees. I really enjoy advising first years, welcoming them to Hamilton, getting to know them. And I often get excited during our advising sessions as we're going through the classes. And I'm like, oh, well, I want to take all these classes too. So it's fun for me to look through the catalog with them and also help them figure out, and get to know where they are coming from. Because some students come in and they really have a plan and they are going to take advantage of the open curriculum. They want to double major, they want to do a major and a minor, or they know where areas they want to check out. Other students, I think, are a bit less focused on one particular area. And then I just kind of try to, especially in that first meeting, draw their attention to classes they may not have had the opportunity to take in high school, in areas they may not have had the opportunity to study. And then from there, in subsequent meetings, we can talk about which classes went well, which didn't. And where they might want to continue or branch off and explore something different. And I think getting to know their strengths and weaknesses is important. And also, as Yassine mentioned, making sure that there's a balance there and that they are, having fun with it, right? I think, sometimes with the open curriculum, you want to make sure people are trying something new and not just sticking to areas they're familiar with, and just sort of encouraging people to try something out. And then, of course, checking in with them throughout the year to see how it's going. I have some advisees who are very independent and really they don't check in with me that much. I'll email them occasionally and it's great. And others who I meet with much more frequently to talk about, particular classes they might have an issue with, how to approach a professor if they're nervous about an exam, things like that. So it's not just picking academic classes, but just being there as a support as they transition into the college experience and academic life and things like that. And as you mentioned, having them as a student lets me check in with them that much more frequently because I'm seeing them regularly. And it has this nice added effect where I feel like I'll often have a first year class where 4 or 5 of the students are my advisees, but then I kind of start to feel like the whole class is my advisees. And so in those first year classes, in addition to, I teach intro to philosophy, that's my first year class. And we talk about philosophy, obviously, but we'll also talk, around midterms about just general study skills and kind of self-care and things like that. When registration comes around, we'll talk about, how to approach that process. So I come to think of my first year classes like they're all my advisees in a way, even though I won't meet with them individually during registration the way I will with my official advisees.
And so, Alex serves in that role as a first year advisor, and you don't declare your major, your concentration at Hamilton until towards the end of your sophomore year. And at that point, you actually pick a second faculty advisor from your major area of study. That person works with you for your last 2 years at Hamilton, obviously making sure you're getting classes you need in your major, in your concentration to graduate on time. But you're going to have also a third advisor during your time at Hamilton, and that's your Alex advisor. So Alex Advise, Learn, Experience. Alex is a new program that we started with last year's incoming class, so the class of 2025. And Kathy, Dean of Engaged Education, helped us get that started and can give us an overview of how we've actually turned Alex into a kind of a coordinated advising system and what that means for you as a student here.
Sure. Hi again, everyone. As JD said, Alex stands for Advise, Learn, Experience. It's named after Alexander Hamilton, who you can see here behind me, looking at the chapel here at Hamilton. And advising, as JD and Professor Plakius were saying, there's academic advising, but there's also co-curricular advising. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. The learn piece of Alex is all of the academic support services that we have on campus for writing and language, quantitative reasoning, oral communication, etc. And then the experience piece, you're going to hear a lot today about research, which is a big part of experiential learning at Hamilton, but there's also, of course, off-campus study, internships and other career-related experiences, community-based learning, leadership development through student life, all kinds of opportunities there. We're taking, with this new Alex initiative, kind of a team-based approach to advising. So while you have a faculty advisor who's going to help you kind of discern your intellectual journey at Hamilton and check in with you along the way with that, you'll have a career advisor who's going to help you kind of think about your path after college. But your Alex advisor is the new piece of this team. And the Alex advisor is kind of your, I think of it as your primary care physician, right? They're the generalist. They're the person you can go to for anything. An Alex advisor is a person who isn't giving you grades. They're not handing out any kind of judicial points. They're kind of a judgment-free zone, a place where you can check in about anything. They will connect you to the specialists that you need when you need them, right? So whether that's academic support or resources and opportunities for experiential learning and co-curricular development, they're there to help you get connected to kind of everything on campus. And while your faculty advisor will change, most likely as you go through your 4 years here at Hamilton, you'll have your pre-concentration and then your concentration advisor. Ideally, your Alex advisor will stay with you all 4 years, right? So they'll start to get to know you as a first-year student, and they'll be there along your path the whole time, all the way to graduation. And their full-time job is advising. Your faculty advisor is a hugely important person in your life at college, but as Professor Plakius can tell you, faculty have enormous jobs. They are teaching full slates of classes. They are doing amazing cutting edge research in their disciplines. And as we'll hear, they are mentoring a whole lot of students in doing amazing research in those disciplines. They are serving on committees and helping with shared governance on the campus. And they are advising, but advising is this much of their job. With an Alex advisor, it's their entire job. So they are somebody who is adding some capacity and they are available to you whenever you need them. basically. You're not required to meet with an ALEKS advisor, but they're there to check in with if you need to do that. I've been doing some academic advising appointments this week myself. I have all first-year students for advisees, and I will say, JD, half of them since last semester have changed their mind about what they said they were going to major in.
Not
So we've been
not a
having-
surprise, yeah.
We've been having those conversations, and I will say, just this morning I was talking to an advisee who is really concerned, wants to change majors, very concerned that parents might not be happy about that change, and really wanting to kind of sit down with somebody and kind of role play a conversation. I said, oh, I know exactly who you need to talk to help you through that. And that is your ALEKS advisor, who happens to be Kevin Alexander. So kind of did a referral and said, this person is going to be there to kind of help you walk through this conversation. So that's the kind of support that an ALEKS advisor can give you. Some of it is just connecting you, helping you learn what opportunities are available on campus, but some of it is really kind of some in-depth personal work. Thinking through kind of, your values, your skills, your passions, your interests, where all that intersects and what that might mean for you. So I know that you all are probably far more interested in hearing from actual advisors than from a dean. So I am going to be quiet now, and we will transition over to Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin can give us a little bit of an overview of how he works with advisees and some of the questions that they approach him with. But I have to say, it's funny, Kathy, you said ALEKS is like a primary care physician. So that's a new analogy, because we've been saying sometimes librarian, right, to help you find the information you need.
Yep.
Or one that I like is like an air traffic controller, right, because they sit up high or they can kind of see over the Hamilton experience for students, kind of like an air traffic controller looks over the airport, so they see stuff coming and going. So yeah, but
you want to think of it as a luxury. It's sort of like the concierge.
Yes,
at the hotel, right, that finds you all the resources and opportunities you need in the area.
Yeah. So Kevin, if you can hop in here and talk about your how you kind of approach an ALEKS advisee session and the kinds of questions that you get.
Great thing. And thank you, JD, for saying the librarian reference, because I've been looking for who I heard that reference from. So if you were that person, thank you. Because
you may have heard it from me, but I didn't create it. I heard it from somebody else. Yeah.
So I've been citing it without knowing who I've been referencing. So if you're the person, thank you. But yeah, that's a pretty good reference for what we do as ALEKS advisors. We're not the people with all the answers, but we like to work with you to figure out what are the best answers for you and the experience that you want to have at Hamilton. Hamilton has, I would say, a gamut of resources, of experiences that you could have and of things that you could do. So there's no shortage of those things, but you will get a lot of emails. You'll see a ton of posters. You'll see a lot of postages for things that are available, and you may not be able to discern exactly what are the best things for you, or what are the things that you want to do as compared to the narrative that you want to build for your time at Hamilton and beyond. So that's a lot of what we're there for, to try to help you figure out the experience that you want to have, and then to help you reflect on where you've been and where you want to go, and sort of build the map based on that.
That's good. Now, can you, can maybe explain some of the things that a student might come to you with that might be a little out of the ordinary, or you might not expect, oh, hey, I can go to an advisor for that. Oh, hang on, you're on mute.
Gotcha, thanks. It's been honestly all of the above. Meeting with students and kind of talking to the other advisors, sort of figuring out what are some examples we can bring up. There was a spectrum of, hey, I'm registering for a PE class, but I'm not sure exactly where to go to register for that class, all the way to, I'm not sure if Hamilton's the right place for me, and I'm not sure if I can find my place at Hamilton. So what are some things that I can do to explore the interest that I have to kind of make me feel more connected to Hamilton? So we like to think of as a one-stop shop of, if you're interested in something, you can always start with us. We may not be the people with all the answers, but we can help you find the answers, and we can help connect you to the people who do have the answers.
Yep, and that is something that we were telling a student who wandered into our office not too long ago. We said, you know what, that's a great question for your Alex advisor. Go talk to your Alex advisor. So yeah, so it's like the Windows menu, right? The start button, start here and get your answers. So let's change gears a little bit here. I want to talk to Ellie and Yassine again for a few minutes. One question we also get a lot of from prospective students is about the opportunities here on campus to do research. And Ellie, actually, we were, funny enough, we had one of these Hamilton Hangouts last week with Professor Aaron Strong. Aaron's in the environmental studies department, and Aaron was talking to us about some research that Ellie was doing about this contraption that she built. And actually, I'm going to share a picture of this contraption real quick because I think it's kind of interesting. So where are we here? So Ellie built and had some help building this little floating wetland thing here. That's actually Professor Strong. You can see is probably up to his hips there in brackish water in the reservoir. And there is Ellie actually out now that you've got it out and floated in the reservoir. But yeah, Ellie, can you tell us a little bit about what we were looking at there and kind of how you got started with this? Because, you know, if I recall from what Aaron said last week, it kind of started with a kind of a question, a conversation that the two of you had after one of his classes.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, this contraption that I've built is a floating wetland that I've designed in such a way to use a particular kind of bacteria to remove nitrogen pollution or fertilizer pollution from small polluted bodies of water. And so this is kind of I had this kernel of an idea, like it wasn't fully formed at all in high school after a random like biology class where someone was talking about like how wetlands like filter out like pollution from like bodies of water and things like that. And I just got to thinking and I was like, this is so cool. I feel like there's like so many opportunities like in college once I get there to like explore this further, which again is part of the reason why I chose Hamilton, was because the open curriculum meant that if I had such a, like a passion or desire, that like I wouldn't be necessarily constrained by classes to, or like requirements for classes. I mean, you have to go to class to like pursue that. So I was in Environmental Studies 101 my freshman fall, and I had been trying to work up the nerve to approach my professor. It was like a class of like 40 people. And so one day I went up and I was like, hello, professor. I'm wondering, like, I have this idea for an experiment, kind of. I haven't really fully formed it yet. Would you be open to like talking to me about it, or like helping me find resources to explore this further? And to my surprise, he was extremely receptive to it. So then I went home that night. I didn't do any of my homework. I wrote a 15-page proposal and gave it to him. And I was like, here's my idea. And then we kind of ran with it from there. And now I'm doing an official experiment with the wetland that I'll be publishing within the next year or so, which is so exciting. But yeah, kind of my word of advice with research is like start thinking about what you're interested in now. It doesn't have to be science. I have so many friends who are doing so many interesting things. Like I have a friend who's like really interested in Foucault, like this like, oh, I don't even know who he is. He's like a philosophical thinker of some sort. But he was really interested in Foucault, and he has been since like his senior year of high school. And he recently got a summer position to explore this further. So like start thinking about what sorts of things interest you, or even like kernels of things that might interest you, because when you get to Hamilton, there are all sorts of opportunities to explore the things that you're passionate about.
Thanks for sharing that. Now, Yassine, you had a summer research experience. You stayed a lot drier in yours, however. Yours did not require waiting around in the college reservoir, but you spent last summer, I think it was, with a faculty member and another classmate of yours, Dara, doing some research on algorithms around machine learning and data science, right? Can you talk a little bit about, first of all, what you did and how you found yourself in that research opportunity?
First thing we did is I think we discovered how beautiful it is to have to work on a computer. I didn't have to leave my room when it's hot. I didn't have to go to a lab. I didn't have to jump in the water. But yeah, so I work with Professor Perkins on algorithms, and this is, mind you, coming from my first class of computer science. At the point, I didn't even take algorithms class, which is like a really like fundamental class in the department. And what we did is we went through a list of very popular and famous machine learning algorithms. So the stuff you would feed a machine to be able to basically form a semi-intelligent way of making decisions. And we looked at these famous but old algorithms, and we just worked on making them faster. So basically, it was very experimental, very hands-on. We would sit when it would get a little colder during the day. We'd sit around a table, share our ideas, run them, and basically time them. It was literally to be able to see your work in front of you was very satisfying. And yeah, we made a couple of algorithms work a lot faster on different machines. And then we scaled it up to data science, some methods of data science. And this summer, my work is basically kind of carrying over with another professor. So next summer, the upcoming summer, we're doing neural networks, which is basically a form of data science where we get the computers to basically fathom humans' emotions in like words. So we get computers to understand, hey, when you read the sentence, what emotions are being conveyed? And is a sentence, is it bad connotation? Is it good connotation? So yeah, I'm really diving deep into machine learning, artificial intelligence. And again, I took the algorithms class this year, but I've yet to take AI, yet I'm doing research on it before I even take the class, which is actually amazing.
You'll be well prepared when class comes next fall. Yeah, so Yassine is taking advantage of some summer research opportunities. I think last summer when he was here, we had about 100 or so students on campus doing research. I think this year our goal is to get back up to around 130 or so. Pre-pandemic, we were generally around 150 or so, and I don't have any doubt we'll be back up at those numbers soon. There are certainly many opportunities for summer research for students. I want to switch gears a little bit in here again, kind of seeing things through two different lenses. I want to talk to Alex a little bit from a faculty standpoint. Can you talk a little bit about how you approach a student who comes up to you with a research project or wants to do research with you? I know a few years ago you had a student who was doing like a slow food kind of experiment and some research that she was working on. But if you that one, or if there's another one that comes to mind that you can talk about.
Sure. So the slow food one was amazing. This student approached me, was really interested in food. I teach a class on philosophy and food. And she wanted to learn about slow food, and where better to learn than Italy. So we worked together and wrote a grant proposal to go to Italy for a couple of weeks and stay at various sites. We went to the Slow Food University. We ate at some amazing restaurants. We visited cheesemakers and all sorts of things. And it was an amazing trip. And she put together a great research project out of it. And what I really saw with that student that I see with a lot of students, and I think this is a theme that came out of what both Ellie and Yassine said, is that for her, that interest kept going throughout her time at Hamilton. And then she also got a grant through Hamilton to do some work after graduation and start a nonprofit in the Utica community supporting community gardens. So that was an interest that started, early on in her time at Hamilton, and then through different Hamilton supported research projects, she was able to continue that and even take that into a postgraduate trajectory. So that was a great project. Another one more recently that was a little more local involved a student who approached me and was interested in doing some research, and I was I was in the process of writing a book. So we talked about the topic, we did some reading together, and just kind of, that was a more traditional research project where we just, read a lot. She wrote a paper, and she had also been my first year course mentor. So a lot of first year courses use an upper class student as their mentor. So she was able to meet with the students and guide them. And through that class experience, she ended up being interested in the topic of awkwardness, which was also something that I was writing a book on, because we were talking about Zoom classes and what are some of the weirdnesses that come up in Zoom classes. And that was what my book was on. So we ended up doing like a research project on that, where we read a bunch of academic papers together. And that was really interesting. So typically when a student approaches me, it's because they think they're interested in something and they think I might either myself be working on it or be able to help them with it. And sometimes I can. If I can't, I usually know who they should talk to. So I'll never say like, no, that project can't happen. What I might say is, that's a great idea. Let's go talk to Professor so-and-so, because I think they're the person who you want to be working with on this. And I think that's something that I tell students a lot is the answer is almost never going to be no. It might be like, it'll be yes, let's figure out how to make this happen. And I really think that is something I tell students again and again about Hamilton. If you have an idea and you're passionate about it and you're interested in it, I might not be able to make it happen, but I bet we can find someone who can. And there's almost always a way.
Yeah, that's very true. We had a student tour guide in our office who I was talking to a few weeks ago about this, and she had wanted to do research on a particular topic. Professor couldn't support her, but said, you know what, come down the hall with me. I know exactly who you should talk to, and got them introduced to somebody else who was able to give them the support and background they needed. So the opportunities are there, and I think, like Ellie said earlier, you just kind of have to get up the nerve sometimes to ask, right, and to bring that proposal or that idea in front of a faculty member. So I want to go back for a minute to Kevin, if we could. We've kind of danced around some of these opportunities, and we've kind of mentioned them in one way or another, but there are lots of things that kind of fall under the umbrella of ALEX that ALEX advisors help guide students to, in terms of things like off-campus studying abroad and away, the Levitt Center on campus, the Humanities Center on campus. Can you or Kathy talk a little bit about kind of the different centers and resources that are under the ALEX umbrella and how you connect students to those experiences as well?
So on the experience side of ALEX, are housed the Levitt Center. Well, first I'll talk about the COOP. So it's the Community Outreach Opportunity Project. So that's sort of the hands-on experiential learning at Hamilton College. So they have a vast amount of opportunities, including Havoc. There's tutoring opportunities. You can get out and work with refugees on their English language before they take the citizenship test, things like that. There's no limit to the things that you can really do as far as being involved with the COOP. If there's not something existing there, you can bring your own ideas, and like the professor said, we can help you find ways to get involved. And then there's the Levitt Center, which is sort of the research arm of the experiential learning. So they do a lot of work with public policy and sort of taking a more in-depth look at some of the things that you may do the hands-on work with as far as the COOP. And then there's Maddie Carrera, who is the experiential learning director. And she's phenomenal at helping to connect students and professors with research opportunities and experiential learning opportunities, whether it be connected to a classroom or outside of the classroom. So if there's something you're interested in and you're not sure where to start, you could always start with us. But then outside of that, there are departments there who are very, very open. You can always go and have conversations with any of the folks in the Levitt Center or the COOP or Maddie, and they'll be more than happy to help direct you towards the things that you may be interested in. And then outside of those, oh, go ahead, Kathy.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, outside of that, there are other funding opportunities. So to mention, like the Kirkland Endowment, Emerson Endowment, and then through the Career Center, there are also other funding opportunities. So if there's something that you can't find through the Levitt Center or the COOP or any of those departments, and you have your own ideas, there are also other ways to find funding for those ideas as well.
Yeah, there is so much funding support for student faculty collaborative research here, and for students to do independent studies as well. I have the privilege in the Dean's office of reading the research proposals from students and their cooperating faculty. And I am blown away every semester by just the quality and variety. Everything from, somebody building a custom musical instrument to people, doing biological research on crows, to people traveling to Italy to study slow food, you name it. There's any number of things. And I will jump in and add, as far as experiential learning, of course, is off-campus study, right? So many students, of course, for the last couple of years, it's been a little more difficult, right, to study abroad, but students are starting to get out there again. It's super exciting. There are Hamilton programs in France and Spain and New York and DC and Boston and all over. And then also just third-party programs that Hamilton partners with that are connected to programs in just about every academic department. So if you're looking for a particular study abroad experience, I was talking to, like I said, an advisee this morning. She's also doing environmental studies in Spanish. She said, I want to study abroad in a Spanish-speaking country where I can do environmental studies work. And so we're connecting her with the off-campus study advisors, and they are going to find the perfect program for her. So those opportunities are all over the place. Go ahead, Ellie.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to say quickly on that front that that's another thing about research in Hamilton is that like you get very close to your research advisor. So Professor Strong is my research advisor who I've gotten pretty close to, and he's helped me find opportunities off campus as well. Like I'll be studying abroad next fall in Woods Hole, Massachusetts to continue my research in like a professional capacity. So that's just another thing I wanted to say is that on the research front as well, that you like get very close to your advisors in multiple capacities, and that can help you find more opportunities outside of Hamilton as well.
Right. And I will say, to augment what Kevin was saying about the COOP, the Community Outreach and Opportunity Project, it's a great opportunity for first-year students to get involved immediately. Amy James, who directs the COOP, has a slate of COOP service interns. Those are a cohort of students that are chosen before their first year at Hamilton begins. And they are paid to coordinate community-based learning internships over the first couple of years of their time at Hamilton. And they continue on as COOP fellows, coordinating those interns afterward. And those interns get to really take gradually more leadership roles in community-based learning projects while they're at Hamilton. So it's, sometimes you'll have a chance to just sort of do a drop-in service project, which is great. What COOP service interns do is they choose an agency and an issue that they're really passionate about, and they get to develop a relationship with that community partner. And that can lead to all sorts of kind of career-related experiences, research projects with faculty. There are ways that you can really think about this plethora of opportunities, but think about ways to bring them together, to integrate them, connect the dots, and see where that combination of things that you get to do here is going to take you.
Great, thank you, Kathy and Kevin there, and Ellie for jumping in too. We've got about 15 or so minutes left. I want to make sure we get to some questions from our audience. We had a few that were submitted in during registration and a few that have come in since we've been chatting here tonight. So let me jump in with some of these. Alex, this one I'd like you to take, and you touched on a little bit earlier with your description of the slow food research that you helped oversee, but we get a lot of students who say, well, I see a lot of STEM or science type examples, but what are the opportunities to do research outside, right, in humanities or social sciences or the arts? And I'd like you to kind of jump in here and talk about how that might be approached outside of the sciences.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So there are several sources of funding for opportunities like that. The Levitt Center, which has already been mentioned, is an organization that I'm one of the directors there. We fund a lot of faculty-student research collaborations in the social sciences and in the humanities. Some involve travel. So, as Kathy mentioned, one of the great things is getting to read the application. So I can tell you that a lot of them are humanities based. We had a student in religious studies who was planning to walk and document a pilgrimage route in Spain and compare it to pilgrimage routes in Southeast Asia. I think we had a student who was going to do a photography series in, I think, China. It's, you know, it's hard to keep them all straight because there's so many amazing projects. And then there's the Emerson grant, which funds faculty student research in the humanities as well. So whereas the Levitt projects tend to involve more like field work and going out and doing something like that, the Emerson might be just some students who want to stay on campus and learn about a topic that isn't covered by an existing course, but that a faculty member can kind of teach them or read with them. So for example, if a student wants to study a philosopher like Foucault, and we're not really like offering a Foucault class at the moment, if they can get a few other students interested, or maybe just work one-on-one with a professor and then write up a paper or something like that. And that will often feed into their senior project, their senior thesis, something like that. So there's a number of opportunities for that kind of research, and it's definitely not just in STEM areas, although sometimes we see students sort of with interest in both because of the open curriculum. Obviously, we have a lot of students who do a humanities and a STEM field. And so, you know, at Levitt and even outside, we'll see projects that combine aspects of both of those interests, and that's great. There's also the Kirkland Endowment, which funds projects by women students or that kind of further the interests of women at Hamilton or relate to women at Hamilton. And there's a number of other funds, and sometimes faculty will have their own research funds. So like I said before, there's always a way, and it definitely, we you know, support a lot of humanities research as well.
That's great. That's good. Good. Thank you for that. This one kind of more geared towards maybe Ellie and Yassine. How open is our open curriculum, and what requirements are there? So we do have, you know, and I will say there is the writing requirement. We do want you to take 3 courses that are writing intensive courses. We want to turn out good and effective communicators at the end of this, and we want you to take a class that fulfills the quantitative and symbolic reasoning requirement. For obvious reasons, we always call it the QSR requirement, because kind of difficult to say quantitative and symbolic reasoning too often. But really, you do have a lot of freedom. But I'd like, you know, Ellie, you seem to kind of jump in and talk about how open you feel you have your choices are here.
Yeah, I would say it's not too difficult. Like it kind of seems like there's like STEM and humanities, and like they're like not necessarily 2 sides, but like that it's sometimes easier to get in a QSR requirement if you're planning on majoring in a STEM field, or vice versa. If you wanted to pursue a humanities thing, it might be easier to get in a writing intensive. But as someone who's like doing a lot of STEM things, I found it is not hard at all to get in a writing intensive. And it just so happens that a lot of the classes that I'm interested in taking anyway outside of STEM happen to be writing intensive, and that easily fulfills that requirement. And QSR might sound scary to some people who maybe aren't big fans of math and STEM and that sort of thing, but there are a lot of QSR courses kind of within the humanities field as well that have heard from my humanities friends that are very approachable and not too bad.
How about you, Yassine?
I would say, I think at Hamilton, if you really think that you belong in a certain class that you like, I think you can be in any class unless it's like specifically for like maybe senior concentrators. But it's in my experience, so I'm a computer science major, and I found myself in a 300 level government class. And I expressed my interest to the professor, and she said I would be a good addition to the class, and I was in there, and I was surrounded by people who were concentrating in government, yet I had so much fun. It was a writing intensive class. And yeah, I would say it's truly open. I've been all over the place: government, art, digital media, math, econ, computer science. I've been all over the place, and I would say you mentioned the writing intensives, and honestly, I feel that's the requirement that makes Hamilton special. Our students are amazing writers, and you would know why in a couple of months. Our professors, they provide so much help, and we have so many resources. We have the writing center, where basically you go there with your paper, and they'll help you make it the best paper possible. So even for people who are kind of intimidated by taking maybe a writing intensive or a QSR class, there are enough resources in campus to help you with any sort of requirement.
Yep, definitely. This one, interesting question here, because we have, oh, Alex, did you want to go?
I just wanted to say something about the writing intensive stuff too, and I'll be really quick, but I just love teaching writing. I teach a lot of writing intensive classes, and one of the things I love to do is talk with students who think they don't like writing or don't like revising, and just like really break down the process. And I'm like, I can convince you that you love writing and you are a good writer. So I just had to jump in because that's something I'm really passionate about, and it's something I find it really fun to teach. So thank you.
Yeah, there's definitely a support system here for the teaching of writing through faculty obviously engaged like Alex, but also through the writing center as well. One question we get a lot, and Ellie, you are a perfect example of this, is how often do first year students participate in research? Well, on this call, it's I think both of you within your first year did some research. Alex, do you see many first year students?
I don't see as many, but I certainly wouldn't turn down a first year student who had a particular project in mind. I mean, I guess most of the first year students I see are kind of exploring and, getting a feel for what they're interested in. And I really encourage that. But it's certainly possible.
Yep, definitely. And I think as Ellie mentioned earlier, if you have a project or an idea, you're going to find a receptive audience to help you further that along one way or another. Some questions that came in from the chat here. Can we talk about the FYE classes that were mentioned earlier? Anybody want to take that one?
So those are the first year courses.
Yeah, I think it's FYC, not FYE. Yeah, I think
I can talk about that, or
Yeah.
Ellie. Yeah. I mean, they're small, there's 16 students. And like I mentioned before, as a professor, you really try to both cover the material. A lot of my first year philosophy students end up being philosophy majors, but also take some time to, talk about the transition into the college workload and just be mindful of the fact that everyone there is kind of going through the same transition into college. I teach mine in the fall, so it's brand new. And I think that's like a really cool environment to, ask questions. It's kind of a space for students to get to know one another, and they often form these really close bonds. But I want to hear what Ellie has to say. I want to hear the student perspective.
Yeah, kind of along those lines. The two first year courses that I took, I found that I made a lot of really valuable friendships in those courses because it was sort of understood that we're all kind of in the same boat. We're all like new to this place. We may be the first time away from home for a lot of people. So I found that this was it kind of was a really wonderful class atmosphere, kind of everyone being first year students. And also the professor was sort of mindful of this and made sure that we all felt comfortable and I think was especially in tune with our needs or our mental health and that sort of thing, which I think is crucial, especially for your first year.
Definitely. Let's see, another question here. Oh, Kevin, this one be good for you. How can Alex advisors aid in finding research or internship opportunities for students abroad?
Great question. So in our role as Alex advisors, a lot of what we'll do in that particular case is connect you to the off-campus study department. Since you'll be off campus in the study abroad program, they'll be sort of really integral in helping you connect with the people in the site that you'll be with. But as an Alex advisor, what we can do is help you figure out what sort of internships you would like to do while you're studying abroad. And help you figure out when you're going to that site, what sort of experience would you like to have? and then maybe helping you figure out when you're applying to places, what sort of things would you want to apply to?
Yep. And as far as internships are concerned, a lot of times your career advisor will help you with internships. And I know that that while they do generally concentrate on domestic opportunities, they have helped students secure or find internships while they were abroad, for sure. Let's see. Can a student conduct research independently, or is it generally guided by a class or a faculty member? Yeah, Yassine.
Yeah, I've seen students conduct research independently. And I think one of my favorite examples was a student in the arts department. She, while I was on campus last summer, she was there every day in the arts center, and she was working on this amazing sculpture. It was just her in the studio. And at the end of the summer, when classes came back, all of her work that she's been working on was displayed in the art center. And we have like different art pieces that are in the center almost every month. And hers was a thing of beauty, really. But yeah, it was basically a grant from the arts department for her to conduct that research and explore her talents throughout the summer.
Yep, and Ellie's, I mean, is a perfect example. Is that was not necessarily guided by Professor Strong, but you brought that to him, so that was in a way an independent project.
Yeah, I was gonna say also that there are kind of like varying levels of independence. There are some who, like you'll go to a professor, and the professor, like Alex was saying, like they might already have a project to work on and like be like very hands-on and offer a lot of guidance to their students. But then there are other cases, like for example, my project where I kind of wanted to kind of take the lead on a lot of things, but then would like go and be like, "Hey, professor, how do I do this particular like sample collection thing?" And then he would give me a lot of guidance. So it does vary about how much the professor is involved in your research, kind of dependent on how much you like feel like you can take on.
Yep. Well, we are running out of time here, so I just first of all want to say thank you to our panelists tonight for coming on. Kathy, Kevin, Alex, Ellie, Yassine, thank you for spending a little bit of your evening tonight talking to our admitted students, sharing with them your knowledge and your background about your experiences here at Hamilton and how they can get involved in research and other endeavors here. I do appreciate it. I know they appreciate it as well. I want to put a quick plug in for a panel, another hangout that we're having next week, next Wednesday, April 20th, same time, 7 o'clock Eastern time. We have a hangout for careers and finding your future. So you've met some advisors here today, right? And a faculty advisor and your Alex advisors. You're going to meet some career advisors next week and get to hear about that part of the process as well. So I encourage you, register for those and join us for that event. My colleague Ben will be leading that one. So I will close us out now. Thank you again for coming. And thank you again to my panelists. Appreciate having you here. And everybody have a good evening. Bye-bye now.